Everybody, I would like to welcome Quincy Jackson to the Quiet Time podcast. Quincy and I met on LinkedIn. It just shows the power of LinkedIn when you can form these relationships and these connections. And Quincy and I were able to hit it off right away in terms of, just who he is as a person, how he carries himself, how I carry myself, and look where we are. So I just want to welcome you to the Quiet Time podcast. Quincy, what's going on?
What's going on, sir? Thanks, Benny, for having me, man. I'm super grateful to be on here with you. Like you said, we just hit it off. LinkedIn did its work as a networking website, and here we are today.
Absolutely. You had an inspiring story when we first met, and I just think it's incredible. And I think this is a great platform to share it. And I would love for you to tell the story, the audience, a little bit about your story. And how you grew up. You did grow up in Denver. That's one of the things that connected us, is that you grew up in Denver, and I now live in Denver. But tell people a little bit about your story and how that was for you growing up.
Yeah, man. Born in Denver General Hospital. My mom, she was in a situation where she had gotten into drugs heavily and alcohol heavily. And I just remember, being a kid, it being around and it kind of being normalized, right? As an addict and alcoholic. And, my brother and my family was in gangs. So that was a part of my upbringing. My mom didn't initially know who the father was and so on and so forth. And eventually I got to the age where life started really being real in terms I could see things and come home and talk about them. Anyhow, my mom finally figured out, and we located my biological father. And she said to me, Quincy, you're going to go spend, I was right before I turned 8. She said, Quincy, you're going to go spend the summer with your dad in Michigan, which is crazy because, you're from Michigan, but lived in Denver too. So again, all these things are connected, right? Yeah. And so she put me on a flight to Michigan, and that was going to be for a summer, and that flight never returned. So I didn't see my mom for 26 years until I had to hunt her down. Really, I mean, I contacted Oprah. I was in talks with their production team, everybody. I was just trying to find my mom, and finally got linked back up with her, 26 years later. And so, yeah, it was, it was a rough neighborhood on the east side of Denver, called the Goal Line at the time, where there was a lot of gang activity, just a lot of low income housing. And again, my mom was an addict for about 30 years until she became clean. She recently, well, not recently, about 2 years ago, she had a stroke. And so she lost a chunk of her memory. So she doesn't even remember us meeting back up for the most part. The cool thing she does remember is that we sent pictures of my kids. And so she's got those on the fridge, and she does remember them. So I'm truly, honestly, through that story, and I'm grateful, though, that I did have an opportunity to reconnect with her, because that was always a piece of my heart that needed closure. So
yeah, you got an incredible mindset to have that, to be that strong. If you do remember back to that time, like when you were that young, what was that like when you didn't have that return flight home? What was that like? What was going through your mind, or just as the years went on?
Yeah, I had some animosity built up as a kid, partially because I came from a rough neighborhood, and so that was part of the mentality. It was just got to be tough through everything. But I also wondered, why would she do this, or what's wrong with her, like in terms of, like, is she gonna be okay? Because she, one of the first things she said when I met her was that, or when I reconnected with her, was that you were a big time mama's boy. You were a big time mama's boy. So I didn't know how this would, how this would truly affect you, but I had confidence. She said, I thought your dad could handle it, but I did. I rebelled. I had a tough time in school. but I had a teacher by the name of Mr. Verhey at Porter Central Elementary that he believed in me big time. He saw not only my athletic ability, and he said I could do something with that. He thought I was intelligent, but he knew how impulsive I was, so he had to figure out how to hone that in, right? But he always told me, you got a great heart, because I used to go down and spend my lunches in the Down syndrome, the room with all the Down syndrome kids, and I just would not go on recess with the rest of the kids, and I just go in there and hang with them kids, because I kind of just wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, and I had a lot of hurt and pain inside of me, and so being part of something bigger than myself was something I just developed at an early age, and I couldn't control not being able to go back. And I don't think I asked my dad very often, can I go back? It was just, this is what you're dealing with. And my dad always used to say, we're going to make sure that you have the tools to be okay in this world. And so I kind of trusted my dad with that, and just took it and ran with it.
Then you do have the tools. And I know that your kids mean a lot to you. And I know that you set an example for how you want them to be every single day. Touch on that a little bit. And I remember you telling me your son last week that, he's not going to be able to beat you in any sports. You're going to make sure. And I know that your kids mean a lot to you. Talk a little bit about, your kids and how important parenting is to you.
Yeah. I mean, as my dad was a single father, I learned a lot, right? I learned a lot about toughness, the unconditional loving that I didn't get from my mom. I think I by nature I had it, so I have that unconditional loving spirit as a parent that some moms naturally only give, right? I think I naturally have that, and so I have a very good relationship with my children in terms of I'm very transparent about who I am as a dad, but also as a person, right? And my oldest is a 15-year-old boy, right? And he's athletic and he's smart, but he also struggles with feeling like is he enough, right? Can I be better than I am? And we constantly talk about controlling the controllables. We say CTC around here, control the controllables, and we also say, what you tell yourself, you sell yourself. So for my kids, it's about one, sharing my shortcomings with them, sharing those experiences that I've learned from, so that as they encounter life, which we all do, they can really be in front. It's like having the playbook, right? Before you even, having a playbook before it even happens, and you've studied the plays and you've seen the film. I'm trying to give that them. And so I want to make sure that they have all the information that I've learned through my experiences, and continue to love on them. Most of all is loving on them and being transparent with them, because I know that the struggles are going to make them stronger. But at the same time, being a dad who's competitive and wants, not only for them, but for myself as well, I want to be the best possible dad I can. And big reason why I told my son, hey, you ain't never beat me on this court until you a grown man. Till I physically can't play, you're gonna have some troubles with me. So that's I guess in a nutshell, that's how I parent too. You ain't beating me, I'm gonna give him a run for your money.
Right. That's how my dad was too. And that's one of the things I kind of share with you. My dad was like that until one day I just took him. He just couldn't keep up with me anymore, just the way I was moving. So your son is on his way, and your daughters, they're on their way. And that's good to see that you parent like that and that you're just so involved. But I think one of the great things that you just mentioned is you could control the controllable, CTC. That's one of the things that I'm going to start using, just as a little acronym right there, CTC. And then what you tell yourself, you sell yourself. That's super important. Where did that come from? Where did that mindset come from? Because this is a mindset podcast, but where did that come from?
Yeah, that mindset, it really came from seeing the progress in my life when I just did what I could control, right? And then also being observant that a lot of people try to control things outside of their control. He said this, she said this, they did that. What about you, right? And I love to say that I'm 100% at it, Benny. I would love to say that, man, every single day I'm controlling the controllables. I never get in a mindset where it's no, that's not the case. But I think if it's at the top of mind and in combination with what you tell yourself, you sell yourself, you see the flower of life start to blossom, right? You start to see it blossom. And that really came from understanding that, okay, if I do certain things, if I'm disciplined enough to do certain things I'm going to get a result from those things that I do. If I fail to do those things, something else may be able to be in control of my destiny. And that's out of my control. But I had an opportunity, right? And so I think that was born out of just pure experience, but understanding and really sitting down and taking mornings, evenings, afternoons, whenever that time is right that you have, and just really thinking about, what am I grateful for? What can I control? What can I continue to build on that is in my control, and go from there?
Yeah, that grateful for piece right there is super important. There is actually a lot of science out there about actually gratitude and how it can make your body feel, and it changing your brain chemistry if you actually say what you're grateful for, but actually feel it in your body. So yeah, that's a big part. You got a strong mindset in terms of, and you're super competitive. What sports did you play when you were growing up? What sports did you have the
Yeah.
most success at? And I know you can't check me, but
Right. Well, you got a little bit younger legs right now, but I think give me some time, Benny. We get on that court. I might not be able to press coverage you. I know that right now. But man, growing up, everything was on deck as far as sports. I mean, if there was a ball, we played it. Basketball was my first love because my dad was a coach for about 35 years, and he coached at the Red Shield. What was the Red Shield back in Denver?
Okay.
And I remember him just taking me as he picked up kids in a van, and my cousins and all them, and they would just jump off with the Red Shield and they'd be there all day. So that was my first love, and I was just a young buck. But football, you don't have to dribble. You ain't got a bunch of rules and traveling violations. You catch and you go. And so I had a lot of success. Shout out to Charlie Schaefer was a guy in my community. His son played on the team, but he taught me how to catch punts. And once I got the love for catching and to returning kicks and punts, boy, that was the show that I really liked. And so, yeah, football, basketball, baseball. I had some success in baseball too. Played everything, center field, leadoff hitter when I was a young kid. And Mike Squires, who's an old retired White Sox player, he was our little league coach, and his son played on our team. And he said, "You take this baseball thing serious. You can have a thing." It was too slow for me because no balls were getting hit in the center field when I was young. So right. I'm out there looking at the sky and watching all these, And then I realized that as you got older, the pitches start coming in a little bit faster. So I was like, I'm good.
Right.
I don't need this going. But yeah, we played everything. And growing up in a small community out here in Southwest Michigan, in Mattawan. We have a really, really tight-knit group of guys who are mostly athletes. And so it was always competitive. And so I think that's, and everyone always also has a successful career for the most part, right? So I think that root of being competitive when you're young and always competing and then finding what you want to do in your life, that transfers over. And so it was just a bunch of fun growing up playing sports in that small community. But we did play Detroit Country Day every year in high school, and I know that we're 2-0 versus Detroit Country Day.
Wow.
We went 2-0 versus Detroit Country Day.
That's because I wasn't.
And you guys brought it
because me and my boys we weren't on the team. That's the reason why y'all were able to get those wins. But man, if y'all beat us, and that says something. I just love your attitude, your mindset. What's one thing you want to share with the audience right now in terms of the mindset that they can adapt to, something that they can learn from you? What do you want to share with the rest of the world?
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest things that I'll go back to is, control the controllables, right? Do your best to just control and get a good pattern of control in your life, right? Where you're constantly taking the small decisions and making the right decisions in the small decisions. And I think the better that you get at that, the more things will come. I guess number one is gratitude. I'll go back to that. Be grateful for what you do have. First and foremost, be grateful for what you do have, because it can always be better, but it can always be worse. And so be in that moment, and again, just be grateful. And then also, I think, who you keep around you is crucial. I've been blessed to have a bunch of guys that always got my back, that I can call, that my wife can call if need be, to have a conversation, to help get me back in line. And then it takes people outside of what your comfort network is, what I call your comfort network, people that just, and that's people like you, Benny, right? We linked up, and now I don't know where this relationship is going to take us, man, because I think just our conversations, our bond, your coaching, the things that are going to be super beneficial, not only to me, but for both of us, I think is crucial. So my dad once said, who you keep around you is who you become, right? And there's different versions of saying that. The 5 most people you spend the most time with is going to be mostly, what you're like in your life. I think that's really, really, really influential on where you end up. And so that's what those 3 things I really want to share with the world is control the controllables, man. And really have a lot of gratitude, and keep an influential network around you that's going to go, wants to go the same kind of places you're looking to go.
Absolutely. I was just talking to Draymond about this, and we actually shared a talk the other day with a couple of other friends, and he was talking about the importance of relationship capital. And that's one of the first things that the Warriors owner said to him. He said, long when you're done after playing here, relationship capital is the most important thing you're going to gain. And that's one of the things that stuck in my mind for the last week. Relationship capital is everything. And that doesn't mean you have to click with everybody. And that doesn't mean you have to talk with everybody every single day. But the conversations have to be meaningful. Networking is super important. And I just, I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that we connected that one day on LinkedIn. It wasn't crazy. It was just meant to be. And then, building rapport with people is super important. And, just as we finish up and as we leave this conversation for today, what's the one thing that you're going to give back to your kids that you can't wait? Obviously, in terms of mindset, but what's the one thing that you're always constantly harping on as a parent in terms of what you want to give back to your children?
Yeah. Visualize. I want to give them the ability to see things before they happen, right? And I want to continue to encourage them to be whoever they want to be that individual, because this world is going to put a lot of pressure on you to be everything else but yourself. Have a vision of who you want to be. Be okay with the mistakes that you make, in terms of life isn't over one mistake, 2 mistakes. Give yourself 1,000 chances and learn from those things, but have a vision. Start developing a vision, start working on something, and then also make sure that you bring somebody else up while you're doing it, right? Impact somebody, leave a legacy, because when you pass and things is all said and gone, very few people are going to say, oh, you had $1 billion, or you had all the Maseratis and all this stuff, but they are going to remember what you did for them in terms of your impact on other people's lives. So having a vision, impact people's lives, and give yourself a bunch of chances to learn from your mistakes.
Man, that's great. Man, that's great. Great words right there. Great words that I can live by and that anybody else can live by. Where can the audience find you? Where can they find you on social media or LinkedIn?
Yeah, Quincy Jackson on LinkedIn, definitely. Facebook, I'm on Facebook. No Return Flight is getting up and going on the Instagram. I haven't been too hip to the Instagram, and that's one thing I gotta continue to get better at, is being able to put myself out there, because that is huge. But we're gonna warm that up and get it fired up. But yeah, you can find me on those 2 platforms right now.
Wait, No Return Flight. You got to tell them what that is. Only I know what that is. You got to let them know No Return Flight.
Yeah, so something working on. It's in the works here. The No Return podcast, No Return Flight podcast, is going to be dropping this year. Definitely, we're going to have a hard deadline coming up here when we're going to be dropping first episodes. But it's going to be about overcoming and becoming. And those is going to be stories where people come on and share. Some folks you may readily know, and then some folks that you may never heard, but they have a powerful story that I want to share. And I love what stories do for not only myself, but I think stories are crucial to the world in getting to know that everybody goes through something. And so I want to share that with the No Return Flight podcast.
Everybody, Quincy Jackson, thank you for being on the Quiet Time podcast. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.